Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I'm your host Christy. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado, where I live with my husband Ron, our two daughters Tatum and Delaney, our tuxedo kitty Lilu, and our Pandango puppy Sophie. Welcome. If you're looking for me on Ravelry, I am Cristi-Lael, and on Instagram I am Cristi-Lael without the dash. This is a knitting podcast, so I'm going to talk about knitting. And I'm going to fiddle with my hair the entire time. It is still hot outside. Summer is really holding on here in Colorado. Normally we've already said goodbye to the 90-degree weather and saying hello to several 70-degree days, but right now it was just 90 degrees the other day, and we're still in the high 80s. So the fan is on. I was hoping to be able to go without the fan today. I'm sorry if it is loud for you guys. I do really apologize, but I'm upstairs and it's hot, and it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and I've got a light on me, and so yeah. In my last podcast, I had I announced a giveaway. Aptly Juice, who is Michelle, decided to, she's opened a shop, and I will link her shop down below, an Etsy shop where she is offering cranking services that are phenomenal for a very reasonable price. And so I hired her to do some cranking services for me. When she sent me my stuff, she said that she would like to do a giveaway. So the people that commented on last podcast were supposed to, the people who commented on last podcast were entered to win the cranking services. And I did a random number generator. Well, I will do a random number generator. I actually haven't done it yet, but when I edit this, I will do it, and I will put the winner right here. So congratulations. Go ahead and message Michelle on Ravelry. She is Aptly Juice. I will write it down below so you know exactly who you're looking for. And yes, and she will work out the details to get you your cranking services. You'll send her a skein of yarn that you'd like cranked for socks, and then she will send you back the tube, and you can add the heels and toes and cuffs and have yourselves a beautiful pair of socks. It's really a neat little thing, and I have actually in my haul portion of the podcast, I have some more tubes that I hired Michelle to crank for me. So yeah, she just does a very good job, and so she is my now my go-to cranker. Like if I need any cranking services, I'm going to hire her to do that. So okay, I have several FOs, not very many whips because I've actually kind of finished things recently, but I do have several FOs, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with a hat. As you know, I've been knitting a hat every month out of Lolo Did It's, either her DK, Simple DK, or Simple Worsted, in the Hippo for the Holidays colorways or the Yeti Goes To colorways. This is Yeti Goes To colorway, and this is August's hat. I knit it out of Yeti Goes To Lallybrook, which I believe is an Outlander reference, and because it was DK and I didn't want to have to fiddle with trying to figure out numbers. The other hats I've knit have been worsted. I went ahead and knit it, holding it double with a skein of Kid Silk Haze by Rowan, and so that gave me a worsted gauge, and it gives the hat a lovely halo. And I was able to keep my numbers as they were, which was nice. So this is the basic hat that I have been knitting every month. It's just something that I kind of came up with out of my brain. It's 96 stitches on a US 5, 2x2 ribbing. I do 40 rows, and then I fold it over and knit it together so that it's a doubled brim. And then I increase up to 100 stitches, go up to a size 7 needle, a US 7, knit for 7 inches, and then do a very simple decrease, knit 8 stitches, knit 2 together, knit 8, knit 2 together, knit 1 round plain, and then knit 7, knit 2 together until I have just, I think it's 8 stitches left on the needle, and then I put them together. Sorry, I'm talking into Fred's neck. That's kind of gross. Anyway, so yes, there it is. August's hat is done, and I think that I am going to do this for the rest of the hats. I think that everything else that I have is her simple DK, so I'm just going to get some more mohair and knit it together. I think it works out nicely, and it gives the hat a beautiful look. And yeah, there you have it. So August is done. I have to say that knitting the hats has been easier than knitting the socks. If you're new to the podcast, for the past 2 years I have done her hippo for the holidays knit along, only I have done socks most of it. All last year was socks, and then the year before was mostly socks with just a few. I think I did a hat once, a pair of gloves once, and a cowl once. But the hats are a lot easier. Speaking of cowls, I knit one brioche cowl. This is for my dad. He asked for one of those neck thingies, and I asked him what kind of colors he would like. He is very traditional, so he said black and, I think he said black, but I told him I wasn't going to knit it out of straight black, so I found some yarn, and I wanted to do brioche, so I gave him 3 options, and I asked him to pick which 2 he liked the best. And so he picked the black, and the oatmeal is the other side. This is Plymouth yarn in their something tweed. Hang on a second. Nope, that's the wrong bag. Poop. It's on my my project page. All of my information is on my project page, which you can find by finding me on Ravelry. So yes, this is Opportunity Straightforward, I believe. The designer, fortunately, I do have the pattern here. Hang on. No, that is still the wrong bag. Goodness gracious. I grabbed it twice thinking it had the right stuff in it. So the designer I will put down here, she designed 3 different cowls with brioche, Opportunity Straightforward, Opportunity Crossed, and Opportunity Slanted, maybe? Anyway, so this is Opportunity Straightforward, which is very simple, very, very simple brioche. Just 2 colors, no interesting decreases or anything like that. So I made it for Dad, and it will, it's not going to be like a special surprise or anything like that. He knew it was coming, so I will just give it to him now that I've podcast about it. And he can wear it under his coat, which is exactly what he wants, and he can fold it if he wants to, but it should keep his neck warm. My parents are still new to Colorado winters, and so it was a little bit of a surprise. And last winter was kind of on the colder side. It was the coldest winter that we'd experienced since we'd moved here, which has only been 3 years, keep in mind, but still. And so anyway, as I mentioned, I had 3 different colors, and I told Dad he could pick 2. The 3 colors were black, oatmeal, and red. So Dad picked black and oatmeal, and then I asked Ron which he would like, and he said the oatmeal and the red. So I knit him the Opportunity Slanted, which same pattern, or same designer. It was one of those 3 patterns, and you can buy it in a 3-pack. So this is one of the other ones. He decided he wanted the oatmeal to be the main color, so that's why this one is on the outside. But you can, nice thing about brioche is it's completely reversible. So so if he decides he wants it to be, he's feeling red that day, he can switch it out. Yeah, this one was it took a little bit more more attention to be paid to it when I was knitting it, but after an inch or two, it's basically a brioche. Brioche can look so overwhelming, but it is not hard. It's basically, when you have a plain pattern like this, it's basically 2 rows. It's a 2-row pattern repeat. You do one, you're only knitting with one color at a time. So you do 1 row with the black, and then the next row with the oatmeal, and it makes this happen. You just do it right. And it makes this happen. Of course, if you do it wrong, this doesn't happen. But it's not hard. And then with something like this, you're still doing the basic brioche, but right here and right here, there's a different stitch. You know, right here and right here. And so you're increasing here and you're decreasing here, and you do that every 4th row. So you got the basic brioche 2-row pattern repeat, and then every 4th row, so every other pattern repeat, you would do the decreases and increases. Not hard, not hard. And then the last one will be, the last one I didn't say, I'm doing 3 of them. I bought, they each took 50 grams, or at least that's what the pattern said. They each needed to take 50 grams. So I bought 300-gram skeins, knowing that I could make 3 different cowls. So Dad's is the black and oatmeal. Ron is my husband, is the red and oatmeal, and then my uncle will get the 3rd one, and his will be black and red. And I haven't started that. I almost grabbed that bag again. So I've been knitting it in this bag, but I recently removed them out of this bag and moved it into a smaller bag, and I've put Appley Juices, or Michelle's sock blanks, sock tubes in here to get ready to knit them into socks. And that's the bag that I brought over. I did not bring over the other one. It's way over there and I can't reach it. And I'm that lazy. So anyway, Uncle's will be that 3rd pattern, and it will be out of the black and red, and I will get that started before too long. But I kind of burned out a little bit on brioche after knitting the 2 cowls one right after the other, and so I took a break. Okay, I have 3 more finished objects. They are all socks. I am feeling a little bit better about socks lately. I was so burned out on socks earlier this year, and I was still knitting them, but I was not enjoying it in any way. And so it's nice to kind of be a little bit keen on it again. Still not like I was in, what was it, 2017 when I knit 61 pairs of socks. Definitely not that keen. And so I think I have knit 22 pairs so far this year, which isn't bad. I'm not complaining, but it's not been a high priority. My sock stash keeps growing because I still want to buy sock yarn, but it's not knitting as much as I'm bringing in, unfortunately. I did have a question. Somebody asked me if I was still knitting the mini socks. I only did that in 2017. I knit a mini, about 2-inch tall, 3-inch tall mini sock as a representation of every sock that I knit in 2017, and so I knit 60 some odd of them, 62, 61, and I decided that was fun in 2017 and I didn't want to do it anymore, and so I haven't knit any other mini socks. I do have them hanging from my ceiling, and I love them, and they look great in this room, and I'm so glad that I did it, but I never want to do it again. I may change my mind one day, but yeah, I'm kind of over that experience. So here is a pair of socks that I recently finished. I think these were on the needles when I podcast last. This is a pair of socks that I knit for Ron. The yarn is Trekking XXL, and the colorway is 515. This is a very workhorse yarn. It is. I think, I can't say this for sure, but I feel like Opal and Reggie are a little bit softer than this yarn. But Ron is not particular about soft socks, so yeah, he will wear them without problems. I thought that this yarn was a striper when I started these socks and found out that it is not. However, I did get a nice kind of a spiral striping. I do think it's interesting how your tension changes. This is the first sock, and it was pretty even all the way through. And then the second sock I got a little loosey-goosey apparently. You can see the difference between the two. But yeah, these were bottom up, toe up, with Turkish toe cast on. I did a fish lips kiss heel, 1x1 ribbing, and then Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. Real simple, and Ron will love them. Thank you, by the way, for everybody who showed your love and support from my last podcast when I was talking about Ron and the Achilles tendonitis that he developed. He has managed to actually recuperate pretty well. He still has to kind of be careful about going down the stairs. His tendon is still a little tight, but he's not walking with the walking cast anymore, and isn't limping, and doesn't really have any pain anymore, which is really nice. So that has been lovely to have him recuperated now, because that was rough on all of us, actually. Then I finished a pair of shorty socks. I got this pattern. I knit either Rose City rollers, or I just knit my normal sock recipe and then just make them shorter. But this is actually a pattern that Michelle, Apple Juice, had keyed me into. She made me a pair of shorty socks on her circular sock machine, and they had a little tab on the back, and I loved them because they stay up. They're still good ankle socks, but they don't slip down in my shoes. And she found a pattern that did that for hand knit. So she clued me in on it, and here are the socks that I made. Look at the little tab, isn't that cute? So it's a super simple pattern, and I've forgotten, I think the pattern is just called Tabi Socks, and I've forgotten the designer, so I will put it here, but it's super simple. And what was nice about the pattern is that she gave you instructions on how to do the tab, whether you were doing the socks toe up or top down, which I thought was really nice. I did these ones top down, which I'm normally reticent to do. I don't really enjoy doing top down socks because I don't like doing I don't want to say I don't like, but I don't enjoy doing a heel flap and gusset as much as I enjoy doing a fish lips kiss heel. So I normally do my socks toe up. I also enjoy starting socks toe up more than I do. I like starting at the toe instead of starting with the cuff, generally. But I did these top down because I wanted to get to the tab quickly. And so, but because I did a tab, I didn't do a heel flap and gusset. I did a fish lips kiss heel, which made the whole process of doing the socks top down more enjoyable. I didn't have to do the ribbing. The cast on is done with a, I can't remember that word. What is it when you, every time I want to say progressive, that is not the right word. When you start doing like a crochet thing, and then you can take it out and you have the live stitches. I was talking about this just at knit night last week, and I had the same problem. I couldn't remember the word. I will put it here. I'm sure all of you are screaming at me on your computers going, it's this! But I can't. It's fallen out of my brain, that word, for some reason. Anyway, so you do that kind of cast on, and then knit for a certain amount, do the tab, and then you fold it over. You fold it over and knit it together. You can kind of see where you still got stockinette here, but then this is garter stitch. Or reverse stockinette, rather. So anyway, it was easy, and I absolutely loved knitting them. They were great. It's still warm here, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm still getting a lot of use out of my shorty socks. I knit these out of Leading Men Fiber Arts in their Showstopper Intermission, which is exactly the same as their Showstopper base, only it's in 50 grams instead of 100 grams, and the colorway is Boo. So this was one of their Halloween colorways, and yeah, super cute, super fun. I definitely will knit more. I have more Leading Men Fiber Arts. I have more Leading Men Fiber Arts intermission skeins, so they may all end up becoming these. And honestly, I think I will often purchase 50 gram skeins when I see them in colors that I like, because 50 grams is perfect for a pair of shorty socks. Another pair of socks that I was working on last podcast that are now finished, and part of the reason why I've been kind of keen on knitting, more keen on knitting, sorry, I keep hitting Fred with the sock blockers and making music. Been more keen on knitting socks lately is because I've decided that it's time to start knitting some of my Christmas socks. If you're new to the podcast, I decided that imitation is the highest form of flattery, and so I'm totally stealing the idea that Amy Florence of Slanted had, and I'm trying to knit myself 31 pairs of Christmas socks to wear one every day of the month of December. So for the past year or two, I have been very good at collecting Christmas yarn, but have not knit any of the socks, and I've decided that now it is time to get started on that. So I have left over from 2018, from last year. I have 3 pairs of Hippo for the holidays that qualify. I have Hippo for Christmas, I have Hippo for Hanukkah, and then I have Hippo for New Year's. So those 3 I'm counting as 3 of my Christmas, of my 31 pairs of Christmas socks. This therefore is pair number 4. Boom! Aren't they cute? I love them to death. So this is Unique Yarns, which comes caked already, and this was their Christmas colorway, and you can kind of see that the color variegates. There's variation and variegation. No variegation, there's variation. Anyway, geez, Christy, just go on. There's a gradation in the colors. And I knit these when I was working on my last podcast. I said I didn't know how long I was going to make them. So I just kept knitting. I just kept knitting and knitting and knitting. And then I was like, well, you know what? I should probably start the ribbing. And so I did. And then I just kept knitting the ribbing and knitting and knitting and knitting. And so I ended up knitting 5 of the green and 5 of the red rows in ribbing. And then the idea, as you can see, is to fold over the cuff and have a little folded over ribbed cuff, which I love to death. Other than that, these are my normal recipe Turkish toe cast on toe up. I did a fish lips kiss heel, and it worked so lovely for the stripes, and then I already talked about the cuff, so yeah. This is pair number 4 for my 31 pairs of Christmas socks. I do not have enough yarn yet to knit 31 pairs of Christmas socks, but I do have enough to knit like half of that, and I will take some opportunity this Christmas to purchase some more, to make some more, yeah, I'll eventually get there. I'm expecting, you know, maybe next Christmas I might have enough. We'll see how it goes. But it has been nice to knit socks with a purpose. You know, earlier this year I was knitting myself a lot of shorty socks because that was a purpose. My sock drawer is just full, and so while I enjoy knitting socks for myself the most out of all the people that I could knit them for, I just got to a point where I didn't have any room. So now they're going to be put away anyway, so it's working out perfectly. Okay, so that is all of my FOs. Let's go ahead and get into whips. Actually, while this is a whip, it's actually kind of a hoe, and it's a hoe is half finished object, by the way. This is my 5th pair of Christmas socks, and I have the first one finished, as I mentioned. There you go. Isn't that cute? So this is Giddy Yarns, who is an English dyer. Giddy Yarns. And this is her Christmas stocking sock set, which she sold last Christmas. And I love it to death. I think it looks gorgeous. It came with a 50-gram red and green skein, which I split in 2, and then a 20-gram mini. So it's a 70-gram sock set, which is perfect for a pair of socks. This was half of the skein, and I had a little bit left over, maybe a gram or 2 left over. So you can see you can get a full pair of socks out of 70 grams, or at least if you can, if you have feet like mine. And I don't have small feet. I wear a size 8 women's shoe, so not tiny. But yeah, I absolutely love how these turned out. This colorway is gorgeous. And I have started on the second sock, but I only have the toe done. So I will be continuing on with that. And as you can see, I only have the heel left to do, which will only take about 3 or 4 grams of this. So I will have this left over to use in other socks at a later date. So that is my first whip. And then my second whip, I had it as a whip when I talked to you guys last time, but it was just about that much done. I have done more. We went to Kansas over Labor Day weekend. My best friend lives in Kansas, and we went to visit with them. We'd never been there before. They've only lived there for a little over a year, and so it was an adventure. We drove out there on Friday and came back on Monday. It was a nice quick trip, and because we were driving across, well, let's just be honest, land that isn't all that exciting to look at, I decided to go ahead and bring this project to work on in the car, and I did do a decent amount. It would have been nice if I could have gotten more done, but I'm not too upset over what I managed to get done. Here is, so I was right like at the first orange stripe when you guys saw this last. So I got a decent amount done. It's not exciting knitting, I will tell you that. It really, really isn't. But I like I like how it's turning out, and I think I'm going to love it when it's finished. And I don't have this pattern to tell you what it is. It's, gosh, darn it. I will put it here. I am not prepared. But anyway, so it's a very basic I'll even post a picture of what it's, sorry, I'll even post a picture of what it's supposed to look like, but it's very basic. I'm supposed to do this for like 16 inches. This is like, oh, I don't know, 8 inches, maybe? Let's find out, shall we? Closer to 7 inches, a little over 7 inches. So not quite halfway. And I'm doing it. I'm not loving it, but I'm gonna love the finished product, yeah. So, so yeah, this yarn is Fibra Natura Unity Beyond. Ooh, that's super bright, sorry. Fibra Natura Unity Beyond. The colorway is Coral Wash, and this yarn is filled, oh, it's got like 850 things in it. It is 36% wool, 28% cotton, 18% linen, and 18% bamboo. So yeah, it's not unpleasant to knit with. It's kind of got kind of a boucle quality to it, which isn't my favorite, and it does little bits fly out of it. I noticed when I was in the car, because there was so much bright light, you could see it flying off. So that can be a little bit annoying, but I do like how it's knitting up, and I will love it when it's finished. I'm just trying to put a little bit on it every so often. It's a summer top, obviously, so I need to get it done before it gets before summer really goes away. What can you do? Okay, so that is all of my whips. I only have the 2 on the needles right now, but let's talk about some future projects. After I finish the pair of socks that I am on the second sock for, I'm going to knit my next Christmas colorway. This is actually, in full disclosure, is not a Christmas colorway, but it's Christmassy enough in my mind that I can count it. This is Qing Fibers, which is Q-U, Q-I-N-G, by the way. And the colorway is Cha-Cha, but I think with this green is super Christmassy in my mind. And it's got speckles in it, which kind of remind me of Christmas lights. So I am going with this as a Christmas colorway. Unless it knits up and looks completely different, that's what we're gonna go with. And then the other thing, I might have showed you this when I got back from my trip to Glacier National Park, but I picked this up at a little shop that they had there in Montana. And this is Fiber, what is this called? This is Fiber Seed Sprout DK in the Queen of Hearts colorway, and I'm going to use it to knit a depth cowl for my aunt for her birthday, which is next month. And the depth is by Talitha Kuomi, which is, I wrote that down. I didn't remember that. I wrote that down. Here is what it looks like, and I think it's gorgeous. And so I have 2 skeins to knit it for my aunt, and I got to get started on it soon, really, because I want to make sure that it's done for her birthday, which is like the beginning of October, so I really need to stop dilly-dallying. And that's all that is. No, I mean, besides the other cowl that I'm going to knit for my uncle, but that is not something that is urgent. So I guess I've got some yarn haul, not much, a couple skeins. I'm in the Color of the Month Color Club by Knitterly Things Vesper sock. I've been getting a stripy skein with a matching heel toe skein, 20-gram skein, every month from Knitterly Things, obviously, and it's a stripy, but it's one main color, so blues or oranges or yellows. This month, July, I haven't gotten August's skein yet. I thought it might come today, but it didn't. But July's was pink, super girly pink. I do not like pink, but my mom will love this. And the colorway is called Pretty in Pink, which I guess is apropos. And yeah, so I got that. And then Mustache Yarn had an update, and so I grabbed 2 of her skeins because I do really, really like her base. These are both in the Perfect Self-Striping set, so there's 2 50-gram skeins in here that are mixed together. This is the Doctor, and it has all of the Doctor Who, or it has a color that represents all of the Doctors. And then this one is called Family Reunion, and I just thought it was gorgeous. So yeah, that's all the yarn haul. But I did, as I mentioned earlier, commission Apple Juice to crank 2 more skeins of yarn for me. So she did Giddy Knits, or not Giddy Knits, Giddy Yarns, which is the Christmas yarn that I'm knitting right now. I sent her one of her Easter colorways. This was called Easter Haze, which looked like this in the skein and looks like this knit up. Look at how cool that is, huh? It's so cool. So I'm really excited to make this into socks. It's a bit of an optical illusion, honestly. So that, I'm really impressed with how that knit up. And then the other one I sent her was Creative Obsession. Fortunately, she doesn't knit anymore, or she doesn't dye anymore, but this is what her tag looked like, and this is in Spellbound. It is an absolutely amazingly gorgeous skein. Look at how beautiful that is. I cannot wait to turn this into some lovely fall socks for me. Yes, absolutely in love with this so much. These are all the colors that make a Cristi very happy. So yeah, that's all the knitting I got. I did recently read a couple of books that I liked a lot, or that I thought were impactful, let's put it that way, because they're not happy books, but one of them is Far From the Tree by Robin Benway, and I have read, I think she has like 3 books out. I have read one of her other ones, and it was just okay. So I wasn't, like, I only picked this one up because I found it on sale at a used bookstore, and I was like, well, maybe I'll come across it and read it eventually. It's a beautiful cover. I mean, look at how gorgeous that is, but I wasn't really excited about reading it. However, my library had the audiobook, and so I decided to listen to it recently, and I was blown away with how well this is written. This is the story of, this is a story of Grace, who unfortunately at 16 gets pregnant, and decides to, after a lot of kind of soul searching and debate and trying to make the best decision, she decides to give the baby up for adoption. But she struggles with that decision after the baby is born. Even though she logically knows it's the right decision for the baby, she just feels like there's a hole, in her that she can't fill anymore. And so she announces that she wants to find her birth mother. She has also been adopted. And in the process of talking to her adopted parents about finding her birth mother, which they are completely supportive of her doing, she also discovers that she has a half-sister who is a year younger than her, and a half-brother who is a year older than her. And so she ends up finding them first, and it's kind of about them, kind of how life has treated these 3 siblings who were raised in different circumstances, and none of them are with the mom, and so it's a very interesting look at how the way you're raised can affect you, and your outlook on life. Very heartwarming, very heartfelt. You just want to just love on all 3 of these kids and just you just feel so bad for them. But I really, really appreciated how this was written, and I loved it. I really loved it. So, highly recommend this. And then another one that I read that was also very good but hard hitting was Everybody Sees the Ants by A.S. King. A.S. King is, she's written like 7 or 8 books maybe at this point, and this is one of her earlier ones. I think this came out in 2011, and it is, she's known for writing hard-hitting books that have a slight magical realism quality in them. So this book talks about bullying, and then there's just a slight magical element as well, and it was phenomenal. I also listened to this on audio. Highly recommend this on audio. Just was really, really impressed with it. The narrator, I don't know his name unfortunately, but he has narrated several of the books that I absolutely love. He's very talented, and yeah, I really, really recommend this. But and this is one of the ones that I would recommend for anybody who has a high schooler, anybody who's in high school, anybody who works with high schoolers. It's a good one. Bullying is, of course, an ongoing issue. Unfortunately, it leads to terrible things like school shootings and suicide, and it just crushes me that these kids go through all of this and only feel that the only way out of this is to hurt themselves or hurt other people. And it may speak strongly to me because the school that my daughter goes to had 2 suicides last year, and that's too many, obviously. So I'm appreciative that the school is taking great efforts to combat that, make sure that nobody feels like that is the only way to get relief. But I do like how this book kind of talks about that and brings it out into the light. Yeah, she's written a lot of books that talk about that kind of stuff, and one that I just finished was called Ask the Passengers, and it talks about sexuality. That one is also fairly old. I think that one came out in 2012. Thankfully, several of the problems that were in that book aren't as bad of an issue now because of some of the changes that have been made in society, which is very good. I'm not saying that it's completely resolved, but I don't think that it is as bad as it was in 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So anyway, yeah, that's about all that I've read recently that has really blown my mind. Talking about life, the kids are back in school. Hey! I was dealing with some significant guilt because my kids, because they're young, they can't just go and leave the house when Ron and I aren't home, and so there's a lot of TV watching that happens in the summer, and I feel like when I was a stay-at-home mom, we did more activities, and so they didn't rot their brains quite as much during the summer. I'm sure that other working moms deal with this kind of guilt as well. And so as the summer went on, I got more and more guilty about it, and then more and more frustrated because I would come home after working a hard day and find that they had done nothing around the house, and that just contributed to more mess, which is always frustrating. But school is back in, and so we're working out our back to our regular schedule, and things are kind of settling down now, and that's kind of nice. As I mentioned, we did go to Kansas last weekend. My best friend lives in Dodge City, which is great if you're a cow. Well, I guess it's not great if you're a cow, because cows get slaughtered there. There's like processing plants and stuff like that, so it's not so good if you're a cow, but it's good if you own cows, I suppose. But Dodge City is a good historic town, you know, Old West type historic town, and so we went to Fort Larned, which was amazing. It's a fort that I don't think it was. I think it was established after the Civil War, and it was basically during the kind of a blight on American history. It was during the territory conflicts with the Native Americans. But it is, while it's not the best part of American history, it is good that we remember and learn so that history doesn't repeat itself. And so it was neat to be able to see how life was back then, and it's set up exactly as it was back then, and they had a lot of it wasn't just the buildings, like they had things that, you know, the rooms were set up as if there was a soldier still living there in the barracks and whatnot. And even that while we were there, because it was Labor Day weekend, they had demonstrations. They fired off one of the cannons, and they had cooks that were making soup as they did at the time, and people in costumes that showed you how life was lived back then. Very, very interesting and great for the kids. And then on our way back, we stopped off at, we also went to Boot Hill, which is probably one of the more famous spots in Dodge City. Fort Larned is not in Dodge City. It's about an hour outside, but Boot Hill is inside Dodge City. And we were able to see that, and they have a great museum there as well, with storefronts or stores from Front Street that are set up as if they were back in the Old West days, which was kind of neat. The kids got to see that as well. And then on our way back to Colorado, we stopped off at Bent's Old Fort, which was a trading post that was owned by two brothers named Bent, and or at least run. It was bankrolled by a different man. I don't remember his name, but it was run by the Bents. And that one was especially amazing because it not only was it set up as if it were a working fort in the days of that time, and like I said, it was a trading post, so there's a lot of Native American and Mexican and frontiers influences. It's completely open, and you can walk through, and you can touch everything. You know, the blacksmith's shop is completely stocked. The carpenter's shop is completely stocked. They showed you the storerooms, and there was a lot of buffalo pelt trading, buffalo robe trading, and so you could see where the buffalo robes were brought in and how they were compressed down with this special press that they have in the center of the courtyard, and then kind of wrapped up and sent out. And it was just very interesting to see how life was lived back then. And then, again, they had people in costumes that were wandering around and could answer your questions about that kind of stuff. It was really, really neat. Unfortunately, it was 100 degrees outside that day, and so the kids were not as excited about that one, but luckily it's only about two and a half hours from where we live, so we definitely want to go back. It was a really great experience, and I'd like to go back when it's not quite as hot. But yeah, it was a great little weekend trip. It was nice to come back home. I didn't really like the heat, but it was only a couple of degrees hotter there than it was here, so it's not like we would have escaped the heat by staying home. But yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really, really ready for autumn. I'm not a big fan of the summer, and the summer seems to be longer this year, and I just want it to be done. I want it to be cold. I want to need to wear my knitwear because I'm chilly. I want to turn off my air conditioner and my fans, open up all my windows, and yeah, that's what I want, and it hasn't come yet. So, but it is September, so hopefully soon we will get there. All right, I guess that's it, guys. It's going to be kind of a shorter podcast, but at least I feel like I was a little bit more energetic this time, hopefully. Yeah. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and happy knitting. Bye.